We've got a little 3-day journey here that I'm going to call Ptarmigan to Redgap. But also we'll throw in a couple names like Iceberg Lake and Elizabeth Lake. So yeah, let's get into it. I took the journey from Many Glacier, the Iceberg Ptarmigan trailhead, went up, did the spur to Iceberg, then up over the tunnel, down to Elizabeth Lake, camped there, then came back up over Redgap Pass to Poia, and then camped there, and then came out on the last day with a little visit to Apikuni Falls. So, you know, it seems like a lot of people I was running into were doing the exact opposite, but I'm sure that that's because you end up with it's just the elevation works more in your favor, I think. So you kind of spread out going up a little bit better. So probably should do it that way, but I'm gonna tell the story the way that I experienced it, and you can fill in the blanks from there. It's a little bit steep at the very beginning. After that though, it's just a gradual climb all the way up to the lake. So it's 5 miles into Iceberg Lake. There is a section of trees for a while, and then, but yeah, you bust out of the trees, and then you know, you can see the cirque that you're heading towards, and then you really don't see the lake. Well, right before you do, there's this little tiny, I don't know, mini lake, and you think like, oh, I'm almost there, and then you have a little bit more uphill that's kind of like, woo, all right. But then you finally start descending upon it and stuff, and you see all of the icebergs and everything, and it's just a really cool, pretty blue, and I don't know, just a really neat place. And there was, you know, really pretty wildflowers going on there, and yeah, definitely a must-do if you visit the park. And then so anyways, I took off, headed back, and went to the trail junction and started climbing my way up towards Ptarmigan Tunnel. And Ptarmigan Tunnel is just really sweet. I mean, you know, you would start walking up a ridge, it's treed, loads of huckleberries this time of year anyway. And in fact, some folks said they saw a black bear earlier in the day. And then you just work up and you come to Ptarmigan Lake, which is just this really sweet looking lake, just like a lot of these alpine lakes, just hanging out in there. And you know, you kind of start getting little views until you get up to the lake, but man, once you get up there and stuff, it's just this big open. And one thing I like about Ptarmigan's, the trail up to the tunnel, is it's honest. There's 2 big switchbacks, that's it. Some of these other ones, it's like, oh no, I've got a couple more. So you see those 2 big ones, that's what you do. So you just slog up to the top, and yeah, you just come up to the epic tunnel. Anyways, you pop through on the other side to more fantasticness. I love the red rock on the other side. You know, you got a lot of kind of this brownish rock on one side, and then just all red on the other. And I just think the geology of the park is so fantastic, and it's just really cool to note that. And it's just really layered, and you know, you're walking on the edge of this, you know, cliff basically, and you know, on to your right and to your left, it's up or down. And it's just really cool. And you're just looking down, you can see Elizabeth Lake, and you're like, okay, that's where I'm headed. Or if you're coming the other way, obviously, you're like, well, that's where I came from. So anyways, that's just a big long slog down there. You know, eventually you start having views up the valley towards Helen Lake, and you get to check her out. And that's just a pretty little lake nestled in there. And I'm gonna go and camp there on one of my other trips. But anyways, yeah, you just start working down through these little aspens that are about 18 inches high, and then it starts to get into some huckleberries, where I happened to run upon a black bear. So he was really close to the trail, and so I talked to him for a little bit, and then eventually he moved up to the trail a little bit, and then I went ahead and walked past him holding my bear spray and talking and just continually moving. So he let me pass, and everything was happiness. Then you drop into trees, and then it's just Switchback City down to the lake. And Elizabeth Lake, really just a real pretty lake. It's just another one of those lakes that has a really nice shore. The rocks are really cool. They're these little tiny round rocks, and or flat rocks, and I just really like those. And so yeah, it's just a really chill place. It's really fun. That one's really an intersection from people coming in and out of the Belly River, and then also, you know, to Many Glacier and Redgap and all this stuff. It's really just a fun little junction there. So spent the night, then climbed the 2 miles back up towards Redgap, enjoying the views, dropping through some avalanche chutes and whatnot, and got to see some Clark's Nutcrackers, eating some what I believe are white bark pine seeds and all that kind of stuff. So that was fun. And then, but then yeah, you start to really climb up there, and you know, you get into these glacier bowls, and all of a sudden you realize, huh, there's a little pond hidden here, a little lake or a stream or whatever, and it's just, I don't know, it's just really fantastic to, as each turn kind of reveals new things. And one thing really fun about this climb is as you get higher up, you can get to check out a couple glaciers, and then yeah, you pop up on the other side. And you know, then you're starting to look into that Poia Valley, and I just want to say real quick, the looking back, you know, if you're doing the Poia, if you start at Poia side and go over to Iceberg, or I mean over the Ptarmigan way, you know, the view you have when you cross over Redgap is unbelievable. I mean, that thing, you just all of a sudden you see Merritt and Old Man, and then just everything opens up. So that's one thing fun about that, going that way. Whereas it's a little bit underwhelming coming the other way. I mean, it's still beautiful. It just pales in comparison to coming that other way. But anyway, so yeah, you're start dropping down, then you see Kennedy Lake nestled in the back, and I actually ran into I saw a couple goats there at the pass, and so that was fun. And I tend to see goats or sheep at passes, which is a lot of fun. So you start heading down Redgap Pass in the alpine goodness, and yeah, just going through some alpine shrubbery, and then it starts to close down a little bit, and you know, you start to get into some little bit more trees, and you know, kind of those alpine forest. And you know, one thing that I noticed a lot on this trail, a lot of people know about, you know, bear sign being bear scat, and but another thing is, you know, their claws are more than just to, you know, tear flesh off or whatever. They are also really great for tearing open logs to go ahead and eat ants, which they absolutely love, and then also for rooting up roots. And if you look, I have shot a little bit of footage of where you can see glacier lily bulbs that they had dug up there. So just kind of a fun little you know, way to say that, you know, you can see a little bit more bear activity than just, you know, whether or not there's some bear droppings on the trail. So anyways, yeah, this is definitely bear country. I didn't see any bears on this stretch, but boy, did I see a lot of activity going on there. So anyways, but then you work your way down, and it just starts to get into this white bark pine forest, which is just really cool, and I don't know, kind of Tim Burton-ish. And then yeah, you start dropping down finally to Kennedy Creek, and then these really neat meadows that are just kind of, I don't know, just out in the middle of the valley, and it allows you to go ahead and look up. Sometimes you get in these wall of trees, and it's unfortunate because there's great views past them. So whenever you can walk in these big meadows, it's really just nice to see that. And then there's the meadow leading up to Poia Lake, and Poia Lake's got a fun little bridge on it that you can see as you're approaching it, and a couple people were enjoying it. So yeah, just Poia Lake is just really an awesome lake. It's definitely a warmer one, and has, once again, another one of those little pebble beaches there, and was really nice to just take a little quick swim in there just to go ahead and rinse the salt off my body. So that was great. And then you can hear the pikas and the little limestone rock boulder fields that they're having up there, and it's really a cool limestone place. And actually, one of my friends, Ernie, does a lot of caving, and he told me about a lot of caves, so I really was looking for them. And I found a handful of little holes in the earth that they go ahead and explore and map out. So just kind of some fun little science happening all around there that you might not be aware of. And then yeah, so then you work down your way down into the valley, and then you go up and over the ridge, which is a little bit of a grunt if you're working your way out. Whereas if you're working your way in, you have a little bit more of a grunt because that ridge is a little bit lower from the road. So anyways, but yeah, overall, you know, you just kind of come out into this little lodgepole forest or whatever, and you know, and that's kind of that loop. It's, you know, just a really fun loop. It's really pretty, you know, loads of elevation, so you definitely want to make sure that you're, you know, you don't get winded after climbing 3 steps, because you're definitely going to be walking a lot of flights. but man, the views are very rewarding. You know, the Ptarmigan Tunnel is iconic. You know, Ptarmigan Tunnel and Iceberg are great day hikes. But you know, being able to get down to the lake, down at Elizabeth Lake is really cool. You know, hearing the loons in the morning. So that was really fun. You know, those are the sorts of things that you get when you know, when you spend the night and you stay in the backcountry, as opposed to just, you know, walking through with the throngs of people. So definitely recommend camping. It's really great. And it's just different when you walk up and see an animal on a ridge line that you walked up to, as opposed to just drove up to. So anyways, that's my little plug for getting out. You should do it. So yeah, so that's the Poia Elizabeth Loop. I'll go ahead and throw in Apikuni Falls once I get to that here in a little bit. Also, when I said that I hadn't seen a bear yet, that was before I saw a bear. Came around a corner and looked a little ways down the trail and saw a big old grizzly bear. And he saw me and started moving, making good, safe movements. So I filmed him just for a little bit, and then just let him do the walking off and waited till he was gone, and then kept walking. So that was really cool. So Apikuni Falls is a little 1 mile-ish walk in trees uphill, but you know, it's only 1 mile, so then you get to step out into, you know, a really sweet little waterfall. Actually, it's not a sweet little one, it's a pretty big one. And there's a little goat trail to go up to a little perch that if you can scramble up there, I don't know if that's recommended or anything like that, but I'm not recommending it, but it exists, and it looks like a pretty nice perch up there, somebody once told me. So anyways, yeah, so there's that. So there's also a 1 mile cutoff trail that you can take. It's really steep, so keep that in mind. It saves a couple miles though, as opposed to coming out by Apikuni Falls. Overall though, the whole trip, very cool, lots of animals. I mean, this is Many Glacier, and you have the Ptarmigan Tunnel, Redgap. It's beautiful. So yeah, definitely a great backpacking adventure. If you've ever wondered why the trail from Swiftcurrent Motor Inn to Iceberg Lake Ptarmigan is so steep at the very beginning, that's what this little stretch we call Alton Hinkle is all about. Kristen and I walked it today because it finally opened up, and the problem is that it's actually, or the problem is that there's a lot of bear activity in this section. If you've ever driven along here, it's almost always seems like people are stopping and looking at bears at this little stretch. And essentially, this is the old horse trail that comes from the Many Glacier Hotel and gradually sneaks up. You can see that it starts out in primarily lodgepole, and it's really a pretty walk, and then kind of darts in between that and some aspen and rocks and that kind of stuff. And then you come to a junction, and that junction either goes left and stays low for Swiftcurrent, or it goes right and stays high for Ptarmigan. It eventually dumps out. So anyways, this is the old horse packing trail from the hotel, and the grade is actually fantastic. And but it, like I said, it's closed primarily due to the concentration of bears and their food, and they wanted to give them a nice habitat. So if you're looking to hike all 734 miles of trail, make sure you take this thing in early season, or wait until October when they open it back up, because it's a little tricky. So anyways, so that's just this little addendum called the Alton Hinkle section, so you can look it up online for more information. So standing out here outside of the Ptarmigan Tunnel, which is right over here, I'm gonna go ahead and walk you through this place here. Hope I don't make you too sick. Widen it up. All right. Let's see if we can actually see what's going on here. There we go. So it's a pretty sweet tunnel. It gets pretty dark. Woo woo! I see a light at the end. I don't think you could ride a horse through here. You might be able to. It'd be real close. You'd be ducking. Checking your cowboy hat. Alright, here we go. Here we go. What? It just happened. We're on the other side. It's a lot of red rock.